If athletes want the privileges that come with having this in one hand, they have to deal with the restrictions on the other hand. And he hasn't stopped, clearing obstacles like he clears hurdles. After 2 years as a scholarship runner, in 2012, Smith tried out and made the football team. The likelihood of this being a perfect bracket is 1 in 140 quintillion. That means if the Dean Dome was full and everyone filled out 600 trillion brackets, there would only be a 10% chance that one of them was perfect. The Heels have 22 national championships, but they have an all-time best 21 of these NCAA titles. That's 18 better than number 2 Notre Dame. So they're used to going far, and they have a little revenge on their mind, so I'd imagine they're pretty hungry. And of course, UNC is perfect at home, so there's a chance they don't lose anywhere for the rest of the regular season. Every day, people drive their cars to Raleigh for work, meetings, and shopping, but Dan Thomas would rather travel another way.
Train would have made it a lot easier. It's hard to park. So if I had the option, yeah, I would park off and ride the rail in. Sure would.
A tax referendum to raise money for a light rail train system passed in Durham and Orange County, but not Wake County.
All of these dots represent the train stations.
Raleigh Planning Director Mitchell Silver thinks the system would be good for businesses and commuters, but says there is a worry about the demand for it.
The big concern is that there are some people that believe that I'm not going to use the system, and why should I pay additional tax dollars to support a system that I wouldn't use?
The Wake County Board of Commissioners is holding up the proposed rail system. The board voted against putting a referendum on the ballot. Wake County Commissioner Tony Gurley wasn't available to speak on camera, but I talked to him on the phone, and he says that he's against spending on a rail system when spending on schools is the top priority. Even in the future, he said too few people would use it for it to be a wise use of taxpayers' money.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have to pay for it.
Paul Reynoso agrees.
I drive for everything that I do, but yeah, I wouldn't want to pay for something I wasn't going to use.
There's roads all over the city that I've helped pay for that I've never used.
But Silver says sacrifice is necessary.
Everyone pays for transportation.
Silver says he's optimistic the Board of Commissioners will soon come around, while Gurley doesn't think he'd support a rail system in or out of Raleigh anytime soon. No one can run a mile in his shoes, but Saturday runners ran a mile in his name. Being the first African-American to run a sub-4-minute mile is a very specific goal that Reggie McAfee had in mind more than 40 years ago before coming to UNC.
There was a lot of stereotypes that African-Americans were just sprinters, but I just enjoy running. And I just knew that it was my passion, so I decided to do what I love. And I love to run, and that was one goal that I decided I was going to go after.
It was mission accomplished in 1973, but don't confuse McAfee with a contented man.
No, I finished second, and I was upset about the fact that I finished second because I'm about finishing first.
Now McAfee instills that winning character in young people interested in distance running through the Cross Country for Youth program he started in 2006. UNC head coach Harless Metter says that's as much a reason for honoring McAfee as his historic run is.
We want to be tremendous athletes. We want to graduate, do well academically. Then we want to go out into the professional world and give back to the community. So he's doing what we're challenging all of our kids to do.
None of the runners in the McAfee Mile conquered the challenge of running a sub-4-minute mile, but McAfee says the event should still serve as inspiration.
If one looks back at your history and say, well, could I have done this or could I have done that, I always feel like the impossible is possible.
And the possible is only a mile away. In Chapel Hill, I'm Julian Caldwell. Facebook, Twitter, cell phone, and oh yeah, a book. Now you're ready to start your homework, right? At least that's the case for many college students, like sophomore Lily Pittman.
I would tweet occasionally, especially when reading something like super interesting. And I would also carry on conversations through text messages.
But a recent study suggests Pittman's grades would be better if she just focused on homework. Neurologist Anna Felix agrees, saying it may seem like you're successfully multitasking.
But in reality, you're simply shifting one task, doing as much in that task as you can, and then going on to the next task. And you have to remember to finish the first task.
Pittman thinks multitasking may affect how fast she does her work, but not the quality of it. But Felix says it actually does both, comparing the mind to a magic 8-ball.
If you try to do that really fast, the 8-ball will actually be very confused and you can get it to not work. And so multitasking is not unlike that. If you push people hard enough, they'll multitask and be less and less efficient over time.
Unlike her friend Pittman, sophomore Asa Kelly wants no distractions.
Because I was just distracted. I could tell you what happened on the TV show, but I couldn't tell you like what I learned. Like I was writing, but I wasn't retaining.
Pittman says that it depends on the person.
If they just can't focus, they just can't focus. That's not my issue. I don't have a focusing issue.
And she has some guidance for new students.
My advice would be for them to know themselves and to know their limit and whether or not they need that silent room.
But whether you're a B- student or a budding valedictorian, if you put down the phone and computer while you work, researchers say your grades may improve. In Chapel Hill, I'm Julian Caldwell.